Welcome to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan.
When people start spending too much time together, they start reflecting each other's body language and personality. And I'm guilty of doing that to you, I see.
And why do you say that?
I thought rant was my specialty.
Ah,
Looks like the topic you've chosen. You getting on a rant today?
no, not at all a rant. I just thought that I participated in a podcast recently. There was one specific aspect that, kept playing in my head. So I thought we might as well speak about it, speak about, ethical marketing. And within ethical marketing, this episode, I thought we will dedicate to misleading marketing specifically.
Great. But see, even before we start off, I have a question. What do you classify as misleading advertising? Because even, say, creative interpretation or creative exaggerations are counted as misleading by a lot of people. I'm not sure if you were on Dairy Milk Eclairs at that time. There was this ChocoBomb series that happened where when people chew eclairs, they have a little drop of chocolate dripping down their mouth and then their head bursts into chocolate.
Yeah.
I was in sales at that time and we got complaints about that ad also. I thought it was a really cute ad.
Yeah.
So how do you call an ad misleading?
So it was chocolate ka meetha bomb.
Exactly.
And the campaign did really well for the brand. So keeping the habitual complainers aside, right? I would possibly say that quite often when we do marketing, you want things to stand out for the consumer.
Right.
And in that pursuit, you use your leap of imagination sometimes, right? And that leads to some kind of exaggeration in in the executions that consumers see.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now those exaggerations could step into what I call as misleading marketing area.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the more memorable TVC executions, TV executions or ad executions that we have seen in the past. Yeah. Some of the things that come to my head are something like a Mentos Zindagi.
Right.
Yeah. Boy walking into a classroom and getting caught and the voiceover saying ye hai aam zindagi, and then the guy walks backwards, and when he gets caught he acts as if he's trying to escape the class. Right now, so that's a fairly memorable execution. Similarly, there's this nice one about that Happy Dent had
Light.
the night light, the night
Right.
lamp thing. Yeah. So that's the second one. And then third is the axe effect. A boy using axe all over himself on an island or wherever, and then girls coming out of all sorts of woodworks and running towards him. One could possibly say that all three of them are misleading marketing.
Exactly. That's my question. Are they really misleading?
So I would say that, let's differentiate between two aspects of marketing. One is claim. The second is visualization of the claim.
Okay, but how does one differentiate between, actually it's a good point, how does one really differentiate between what is being claimed by the brand for memorable, entertaining purposes and what is being claimed by the brand as a functionality?
So I think let's use common sense. There's no technicality to it.
Okay.
Let's go first dissect the Mentos ad.
Okay.
Right now, is the Mentos ad claiming that if you eat Mentos, the teacher will not punish you? It is simply saying that Mentos gives you fresh ideas, fresh perspective, which you can use to escape any sticky situation in life.
Right.
So that's the claim. But the exaggeration is how the guy uses Mentos to get out of a sticky situation.
Right.
Let's look at Axe now.
Huh.
Now, Axe, the claim is that if you use Axe, you will become irresistible for the opposite sex. And the exaggeration in the visualization also is that even if you are marooned on an island, yeah, you will be able to attract females who will come out of nowhere, right? Now, both the executions that we just spoke about, both of them have exaggerated visualization
Hmm.
in one way or the other, but only Axe has an exaggerated claim.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
So, in fact, if you think about Happydent now, to that extent, Happydent also makes an exaggerated claim
Right.
and also makes an exaggerated visualization.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when such there's such a fine difference between exaggerated claim and exaggerated visualization, who really should be the judge of what is misleading and what is not? Because see, I've heard people who jumped off buildings because they saw a few things in the ads. That's pretty stupid, right?
It is. See, you have to be mindful about who your target segment is.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was quite young, I used to watch this program, and I know people will judge me after this, uh, called Shaktiman.
Yes.
Yeah. Where Shri Mukesh Khanna was Gangadhar Vidyadhar Omkar Nath Shastri, right? And he would turn into uh, uh, Shaktiman, and then he would, put his hand up, he will start
So
swirling, and then he would fly, right?
right.
And very early on in that series, there were news that kids were trying to copy him, and it was made in a manner, the humor, the characters, etc., were made to appeal to
To kids.
kids.
Right.
And very early on, there were news of kids falling from the roof trying to copy him, right? And very, very early on, every episode of Shaktiman started containing a very specific warning where Mukesh Khanna spoke to the kids
Hmm.
at the start of the episode, right? Now, this is about uh, a particular content taking responsibility of its claims and its understanding for the audience,
Right.
right? Now X might think that everybody in their audience is an adult, teenagers and above, and they are possibly intelligent enough to differentiate between an exaggerated claim and an exaggerated visualization. But what I certainly remember is that even X was sued by a few people, right? uh, to say that the claim is fairly well exaggerated. So I would leave it to the brand and its understanding of its consumers
Hmm.
to decide whether the claim is okay, whether they're on the right side of the fine line or whether they are on the wrong side of the fine line.
Okay.
Yeah. And finally, Sharan, I think, like we always keep saying, the judge is the consumer, right?
Right.
So like in the subject of English, we always say that the responsibility of communication is on the communicator,
Hmm.
right? So you're not just responsible for what you say, you're responsible for what is understood, right? And hence you have to take the context into account, you have to take the medium into account, etc., etc. Same thing holds true for marketing. A marketer can't hide behind the fact that this is what I said. They would have to own up what was understood, right? And so therefore it is the consumer who is the judge, and the marketer therefore becomes the custodian of the consumer.
Hmm.
And they have to bring consumers understanding into the room and then judge whether what they're claiming is being understood right or not, and whether do they need to make any kind of changes to the claims that they were trying to make.
Fair enough. I see that you're putting a lot of the onus on the brand, which is largely fair. But a brand would continue to make exaggerated claims if it had a positive effect on business, right? So what happens to business when you do misleading ads?
Finally, when we spoke about a certain topic where we said that what is branding, what is marketing, we said that branding or a brand is a bundle of promises that that a product or a service makes to the consumer and then continuously lives up to that promise.
Hmm.
If you continue making exaggerated claims that you don't live up to, and the consumers realize that, you will see erosion of trust. And once that happens, it is going to eat into the repeat buying of a consumer, and over a period of time, even your new trials will taper off,
Okay.
right? So therefore it makes immense business sense to also be on the right side of claims.
Hmm.
And hence, if the consumer is the judge, understand what your consumer is understanding and thereby take a call.
Fair enough, but I can't let you off the hook that easily also, no? So there are people listening to what you say. You're
Yeah.
putting all the onus on the marketing team and the brand to make sure the communication is done right.
Yeah.
Now, often when you're within your office setting,
Hmm.
you don't really know if something is going to be taken in an offensive manner or to be misinterpreted wrongly
Hmm.
until it's actually out in the market. So,
Yeah.
what can marketers do to avoid being a misleading ad while still trying to be a memorable communication?
I was trying to think through what is it that we can leave our listeners with,
Mhm.
and you've kind of made a formula out of it, which is E is equal to MC square, right?
You engineers bring Einstein for marketing also. What is
The theory
this?
of
Definitely can't be
relativity.
Einstein's E is equal to MC square.
No, of course it is not. Of course it is not. It's just, it just happened to contain one E, one M, and two C's. So therefore I made it. So the E is for echo chamber avoidance, right?
Okay.
What we have seen in the past is that, like you're saying, when you're sitting in the office, you're surrounded by people who think like you,
Hmm.
who are living the brand day in, day out, who are looking at the consumer the same way you do. And so therefore, you will not tend to get the right kind of neutral advice from people around you or your agency partners, etc.
Right.
And hence, what you have to do is you have to find neutral people, right? Best is to find your target audience or your target group, right? If you're able to do that. If you're not able to do that, then go to maybe friends of friends, go to family members that are neutral, or best still, if it is related to that TG, go to kids, right? Because kids are rarely partial.
Right.
So if you can afford, please go to them,
Mhm.
speak to them, tell them this is the kind of claim that you're trying to make, this is the kind of visualization that you're thinking, get a feedback, right? And if the feedback is that it has been comprehended very differently from how you thought it was, then you should thank them for sparing you a lot of problems later, right?
Fair.
So
This
that's
is
the first one. This is the
echo
E.
chamber avoidance. E.
Correct.
Okay.
E. Then second is M, which is memorability,
Hmm.
right? Now, why do marketers get into that trap? Is because they want to make things memorable, right?
Right.
So when they hear the scripts from their scripts, or when they look at the print ad or digital ads from their agency partners, and they appreciate the agency partners for the creative leap that they've taken, that is where sometimes the mistakes get made, right?
Mhm. Right.
Now, while the aim is memorability and you must never sacrifice that aim, one must remember that there are various routes to memorability, right?
Right.
Exaggerating claims is certainly not one of the best routes. Yeah, it should
Okay.
not be a route that's available to you. Exaggerated visualization we have spoken about. There are various other routes. There is emotion. So there's emotion that works, and there are various examples of it. uh, People have made their ads memorable with punchlines, right?
Right.
क्या चल रहा है, फॉग चल रहा है, या फिर ललिता जी आइए,
Ah.
राइट? मान गए आपकी पारखी नजर और निर्मा सुपर दोनों को,
Yeah.
राइट? या हमारा बजाज, और एनीथिंग ऑफ दैट
Even
काइंड.
music, right?
And music, correct? So it is about choosing something that you think would reflect well on the brand, and then investing behind it.
Hmm.
Consistency creates memorability.
Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah. So that's the memorability side. So E, M, then
T.
on to my first C,
Okay.
right? Which is courage,
Okay.
right? As a marketer, sometimes when you're new to the team, too often you think that, whether you should speak up or not, right? In a meeting full of senior marketers and agency folk, etc., if ideas are getting presented, too often you are hesitant to put your point across, and you think that if something is seeming odd to you, and if it is not seeming odd to anybody else, there's something wrong with you. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I would like to encourage all the fresh marketers out there that if you're not talking about a very specific consumer, and you're talking about a lay consumer, it's quite likely that what you are feeling is the right thing, right? People who get institutionalized, who've been working on the brand for long, too often, get into that echo chamber, and
Hmm.
they've gotten used to it,
Right.
and hence you are possibly representing the consumer much more than anybody else in that room.
But I have a question, Yasdeep. So
Yeah.
when, as a marketer, I'm early in my career, I don't get this feeling until I've seen the final product. For example, a TVC might cost lakhs of rupees, tens of lakhs of rupees. Only when it's made will I even realize it's actually wrong. But isn't that too late to even come up with saying it's too late? It's not working.
So let's talk about both the things. First is, even at a script stage, or when people are presenting ideas to you, mood boards to you, concept boards to you, if something comes to your head there and then, you must call it out, right?
Hmm.
You're doing your brand a favor,
Okay.
your product brand as well as your personal brand, right?
Okay.
Number two, even if suppose you've spent a couple of crores making a big budget advertising or a TVC,
Hmm.
uh, you must recognize that the amount of media money you're going to put behind it is significantly more than the amount of money you put to make the TVC,
Absolutely. Bang on.
right? And more importantly, uh, you must also realize that the amount of money you would possibly then spend to undo the damage that you've done to the trust of the brand is even more. It is infinitely more, right?
Right. Right.
So therefore, you must cut the losses. Don't spend good money behind bad money, and hence you are never too late to call it,
Hmm.
right? But have the courage to call it.
Got it. Okay. That's the first
Okay,
C. What's
that's the
the
first C.
last C?
Last
Squared
C
C.
is just an invitation.
Okay.
Is that you and your agency partners are supposed to be the custodians of consumer in the room,
Right.
right? So therefore, always think consumer in. That's the role of a marketer. You are representing the consumer much more than you are representing the brand in that room,
So you're saying
right?
think consumer out instead of brand out.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So uh, therefore, it's a responsibility, and hence I'm saying you are the custodian, and think like that. So that's the second C for me.
Can you give an example for that point? Because thinking consumer out and brand out don't seem too different at the moment.
Oh no, it'll be very different. For example, I'll give you my personal example. I was working on chocolates when I uh, changed from eclairs to chocolates,
Huh.
and at that point in time, we had made that change in the product recipe, which made the product less sticky,
Right.
right? And stickiness was one of the barriers that consumers used to face with eclairs, and therefore we wanted to make that claim, and hence, you know, uh, we were we wanted to exaggerate, we wanted to create a big hangama around it. We chose a Bollywood setting, and the final line that we agreed on was, Cadbury eclair ban gaya hai Cadbury chocolates, और अब ये चिपकता भी नहीं है, right? It
Ah.
sounded very quite a nice line. I've spoken about this in the past.
Right.
So it sounded nice. And from a brand point of view, I was very happy that we are coming to something which is quite amazing. The execution had repetition of this particular line some 8 or 10 times. There was no other dialogue in the film.
Right.
Yeah.
But isn't that already consumer out? Because consumers found eclair sticky and you're telling them the new chocolate is no longer sticky. Chipakta nahi hai.
So chipakta nahi is no longer sticky, but the truth was that it was less sticky. Yeah.
So it still
So
stick.
It still sticks, but lesser than earlier.
Right.
Yeah. So there's difference between less sticky and non-sticky, right?
Got it.
Minor difference when you're saying it, but from a consumer point of view, think of an eclair's loyalist, who was delighted with the fact that okay, no longer sticky, yet I'll get the same taste, etc., etc. But when they experience the product, they'll say, "Oh, this still sticks. Okay, this is better." But the brand promise that you made wasn't being, wasn't evident to the consumer when they're consuming it.
Perfect. I think that's a brilliant example, and the fact that you've given your own example kind of says while it was originally brand out, consumer insight out, it wasn't exactly the consumer perspective or reception.
Correct.
Brilliant.
Correct.
E
The
is
claim
equal
went
to
wrong.
MC square. So I can tell my mom that I've kind of understood E is equal to MC square finally in my life.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's CoBBcast.net.